Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the academic procession and the Chancellor.
I declare that the 597th Convocation of McMaster University for the conferring of degrees is now in session.
Please be seated. Good afternoon. It is my great pleasure to be the Dean of Humanities and a proud father of a graduate of the Arts and Science program of 2012. My name is Ken Cruikshank. I welcome all of you on behalf of McMaster University to this convocation ceremony. I would like to begin by recognizing and acknowledging that we meet today on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and the Haudenosaunee nations, and with the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. That agreement was one of the first among First Nations peoples to share the resources of the Great Lakes region. We have much to learn from that agreement. I've been asked to give a few opening remarks to reflect on the year previous. Both the Faculty of Humanities and the Arts and Science program benefited this year from Chancellor Emeritus Red Wilson's generous donation that made possible what we call the Socrates Project. The Socrates Project aims to celebrate and highlight the important role played by the liberal arts in our society. The project also has done much to animate the new L.R. Wilson Hall, making considerable use of its spacious and light lobby, as well as the Black Box Theater and the concert hall. Socrates helped support a visit by Common Reading Program author Aaron Lacra with arts and science students. A medical doctor, author, and award-winning playwright, Lacra shared his experience with students, many of whom already share his interest in sustaining both science and the arts in their lives. Students from the Arts and Science program also engaged in a dramatic reading of his award-winning play, Sequence. Arts and Science students have already embraced Lacra's appreciation for the performing arts. This was the third year that the students produced their own musical and the first year that they hosted their own art show. The project also supported another playwright, Marilo Nunez, to work with theater students over the spring, summer, and fall to devise a new play. The fall major production of Demos Kratos, which featured a remarkable giant puppet as one of its main characters, explored the ways in which democracies may fall prey to anti-democratic forces and the human resilience required to resist oppression. Our Wilson Institute for Canadian History also spent the year focused on the question of democracy, sometimes in cooperation with the Socrates Project. Most recently, the Institute brought scholars and historians and political scientists from across the country to reflect on the history of how and when, and if, Canada became a democracy. And the Institute's Remaking History course, which it has run for a few years, often focused on elections, engaged students this year in recreating the debates and the outcome of a key event focused on a critical moment in the history of democracy in Canada, the rebellions of 1837-38. Socrates also helped our Studio Art program initiate a number of workshops and events aimed at exploring the past and present and envisioning the future of the natural environment of McMaster's own West Campus. This story has just begun, and next year, the faculty will be offering a course that will allow students to work with an experienced environmental designer to rethink how the university uses what was once an important wetland and still remains an important creek watershed to Cootes Paradise. Students in the Arts and Science program remain equally focused on environmental issues and in the past year have enjoyed experiential learning courses dealing with caving, trees, urban placemaking, and outdoor education. I could go on, but I recognize that you are anxious to reach the moment for which you are all here, and to do so long before a certain sporting event this evening. So let me conclude and not congratulate the Raptors, but conclude by thanking all of the graduates for bringing energy, excitement, curiosity, and a sense of wonder to our classrooms, to our laboratories, to our performance spaces, to our Studio Art studios. I speak for all my colleagues in saying that we learned much from you, perhaps as much as you learned from us. Today, as we celebrate a major milestone in your lives, we are also celebrating the future. This convocation is our way of saying that we believe that you will continue to write well, to think deeply and critically, to listen and to be open to viewpoints of others, to engage in respectful and civil dialogue, and to recognize and create beauty as you continue your journey through life. The future is bright. Savor this moment. Congratulations. I would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge some of the notable leaders joining me on stage today. Our Chancellor, Dr. Suzanne Labarge, President and Vice Chancellor, Dr. Patrick Dean, President and Vice Chancellor Emeritus, Dr. Alvin A. Lee, Provost and Vice President Academic and today's Master of Ceremonies, Dr. David Farrar, Associate Vice President Students and Learning and Dean of Students, Mr. Sean Van Koenet, and Associate and Assistant Deans, Directors, Chairs, faculty members, and other honored guests. Before we start our formal program, may I ask everyone in the hall to switch off any electronic device that otherwise will undoubtedly ring, beep, or make some annoying sound during the ceremony. I would like to now call upon our Chancellor, Dr. Suzanne Labarge, to deliver her welcoming remarks.
Welcome, honored guests, staff, faculty, families, friends, and most importantly, graduands. This is an exciting day for all of you who are graduating today, as well as for all those people who have supported you and stood behind you, and in many cases have had a key role in you being here today. You've achieved a great deal to get here, and you should all be very proud of your success and looking forward to what the future might bring. Congratulations, and enjoy the ceremony.
I'm David Farrar. I'm the Provost and Vice President Academic of the University, and this afternoon I have the great pleasure of acting as your Master of Ceremony. I would like to welcome Dr. Patrick Dean, President and Vice Chancellor, to the podium, who will be presenting the honorary degree recipient.
Madam Chancellor, by the authority of the Senate of McMaster University, I have the honor to present Thomas Beckett. A law graduate from the University of Toronto, the Honorable Thomas Beckett was called to the bar in both Alberta and Ontario in 1952, beginning a distinguished legal career that saw him work as a lawyer with Trelevin and Milne in Hamilton, then become a partner at Shaker and Beckett, followed by a partnership at Inch Easterbrook, Shaker and Beckett. Ultimately, Mr. Beckett was senior partner at Beckett Harris Henderson. A member of the Canadian Bar Association, Hamilton Law Association, and Hamilton Lawyers Club, Mr. Beckett was appointed Queen's Counsel in 1974, and a decade later began a distinguished career in the judiciary with his appointment to the District Court of Ontario Unified Family Court. He later became a Justice of the Superior Court of Ontario, retiring in 2000. In addition to his public service through law, Mr. Beckett was also an elected public servant, holding a seat on the former Ancaster Township Council and serving as Deputy Reeve and a member of the former Wentworth County Council. He was also a Liberal Party candidate for Parliament in 1968 and for the provincial legislature in 1971. Mr. Beckett has been a long-time and dedicated community volunteer, serving as president of organizations including the Hamilton Social Planning and Research Council and the Ontario Association of Urban Rural Municipalities. He is also a former member of the McMaster University President's Research Ethics Board, the Hamilton Ethical Education Association, the Hamilton Handicapped Club, the Canadian Civil Liberties Union, the Canadian Institute of International Affairs, and the Province of Ontario Solid Waste Task Force. Of all of Mr. Beckett's volunteer legacies, however, his most significant is likely the one he built through his work to protect and conserve our natural environment. He was a founding member of the Spencer Creek Conservation Authority in 1958, later serving as the authority's vice chair and then chairman. When the authority expanded its mandate and became the Hamilton Region Conservation Authority in 1966, Mr. Beckett served as the new organization's first chair until 1971. During his time with the organization now known as the Hamilton Conservation Authority, Mr. Beckett helped spearhead the protection of thousands of acres of environmentally significant lands from Dundas Valley to Beverly Swamp to 50 Point and Tiffany Falls. In pursuit of his environmental mission, Mr. Beckett also served as a director of the Conservation Council of Ontario and president of the Institute of Ecology in Washington, D.C. An honorary life member of the Algonquin Wildlands League, Mr. Beckett has received the Niagara Green Space Award and been named to the Hamilton Gallery of Distinction. The Hamilton Conservation Foundation also established the Thomas A. Beckett Living Forest within the Dundas Valley Conservation Area. Madam Chancellor, it is a privilege to present to you one of our local community's leading jurists, public servants, volunteers, and conservationists. I ask that you recognize his diverse and significant accomplishments and contributions by conferring upon the Honorable Thomas Beckett the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Hey, Tom, if you turn away from me.
Thomas Beckett, by the authority of McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to confer upon you the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, in McMaster University, with all the rights and privileges pertaining to that degree. Congratulations. I would now like to invite Dr. Beckett to deliver the convocation address.
Madam Chancellor, President Dean, and Dean Cruikshank, graduates, friends, I don't know what that sound is that's coming back. Anyway, this is a very, very special day for me. I can't tell you how much it means. I could never have dreamt, looking back, that someday I would be standing here honored by this great university. But I appreciate it. I'm proud. I have a lot of my family here. Most of them are here, including a couple of great-grandchildren. And I'm sure they're all proud of me as well. For you who are graduating, this has been a long trek getting your education. You've all been on one stream. But today, you're going to be splitting off into different directions. Some of you, I assume, will go on to further education, attaining further degrees. Some of you may be entering into your chosen profession, whatever that may be. Some of you may be about to take a world tour, something I was never able to do, but which I most highly recommend. And some of you have no idea what you're going to do after today. I suspect there's a lot of you. And you know, that's okay. That's okay. There's no rule that says you have to know on the day you graduate what you're going to be doing for the next 50 years. It will come to you. I'm sure it will. So what I want to urge you today is to get involved in your community. Now that means a lot of things. Maybe I can tell you a story about how I got involved, because the path to getting involved there are many paths. Anyway, I was a young lawyer living in Ancaster on the main street. I'd lived there a couple of years. It was the mid-50s. One night, while having dinner, I got a telephone call from a man I'd met in the town, and he said, "Tom, you really ought to consider running for town council, township council." And I said, "Well, no, I'm not interested in doing that." He said, "Well, would you at least come to the meeting? It's in an hour from now." I said, "Oh, well, I'll go to the meeting, but that's it. No more involvement than that." Well, I went to the meeting. 2 hours later or so, I was back home and I was nominated to run for township council. And that began a whole series of events in my life. First thing I found out, there was such a thing as a Conservation Authorities Act. And I was able to be instrumental in the creation of that first conservation authority. It was called the Spencer Creek Authority in those days. Later became the Hamilton Region Authority and the Hamilton Conservation Authority. And from there, I found that I was able to start acquiring lands. And we acquired thousands of acres of lands. Most of them beautiful, scenic lands, lookouts, falls, in the hills and valleys of, mainly in Dundas Valley. And that was, to me, not something you got paid for. You didn't get paid for that, but it meant more to me, and especially now, you can see it meant more to me than probably anything else I did my whole life. And that all started from one little phone call that came to dinner. So you're going to find some way to get involved. You know, I was thinking about all these conservation lands and so on. Every city needs more parkland. Every city, no matter where it is. There's never been a city that says, we have too much parkland. So I'm urging you to get involved at the local environmental level to help your local authorities acquire lands. And these lands can be right in the city. They don't have to be adjacent to it. We can't create more land, but we could certainly create more green spaces. And some of those spaces can be right in the city. Lands that have gone to wasteland, derelict lands in the city can be converted into green acres. Every city needs them, and it's largely a measure of how livable a city is as to how many parks are available to its citizens. And growing parks in our city is another good, great step towards fighting what I might call the elephant in the room. And that is, of course, global warming, or as they prefer to call it now, climate change. I'm not sure why that got changed from global warming to climate change. Maybe climate change sounds a little bit more gentle than global warming, but it's on us. Global warming is real, it's here, and you're going to have to somehow or other face it and deal with it. I don't know just how you will go about doing that, but one thing is certain: global warming is caused by greenhouse gases. We know the cause of it. And actually, we know the cure. Stop burning fossil fuels, or at least stop burning the amounts we do. We're going to probably be facing and that's not easy. It means a conversion from the petroleum-based society that we now have into a renewable energy society. It's not easy. So what I'm saying to you is that the solution to global warming is not a science solution, it's a political solution. Our leaders have to take the gutsy steps they're going to have to take to keep the oil and the coal and all other fossil fuels in the ground. That's not easy. We don't need more pipelines. We don't need more oil wells. If we burn all the oil that we have on hand, then global warming will be entirely out of control. So what I'm urging you to do is to get involved in the political process. Your leaders, whoever they may be, need your help. They need your help at election time. They need your help in between election time. And the converse is that you gotta help to get rid of the yahoos who don't understand that we have a problem. I don't suppose there's much you can do about the big one. It's not far south of here. Anyway, your politicians, and by the way, politician's a good word, but they're there in Ottawa or wherever it may be, representing you, and they can't do it without your support, and it has to be visible, it has to be physical. Get out and work for the candidates that you think are going to bring the proper solutions. Now, I have no idea whether we're going to win the war on global warming. We may or we may not, but I can tell you this, that without the involvement of you young, energetic, vibrant students, graduates, the chances of winning that war will be far less. So thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Dr. Beckett, for your wonderful comments. I don't think I need to say that. I would think that the applause that you've received at various points during it are real testimony to what Dr. Beckett has to say. What is interesting is when we grant an honorary degree, we look for somebody who represents the best of what society produces. Sometimes it's in their field of study, or, as in the case of Dr. Beckett, it's in the community they represent and the community they have contributed to enormously. And Dr. Beckett is a wonderful example of this, and we are delighted to have him as part of the McMaster family. I think what's interesting is he pointed out the challenges and how he decided to get involved. And the challenges today, as he pointed out, are very different. But they're all ones that the kind of degree you've got can help, and he is a wonderful example of how you can do it. Thank you very much, Dr. Beckett.
President Dean will now come forward to present the graduands to our Chancellor for admission to their degrees.
Will the graduands please stand? Madam Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, I present to you these candidates and those in absentia in order that you may confer the appropriate degrees upon them, and I bear witness that they are worthy and suitable.
Graduands, by my authority and that of the McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to admit those before me today and those in absentia to their individual degrees at McMaster University with all of the rights and privileges pertaining to those degrees. My sincere congratulations to you all.
Please be seated.
Graduates, I now ask each of you to join me on stage so that the Chancellor and I may welcome you to the McMaster Community of Scholars.
Ladies and gentlemen, so that each graduate's name may be heard, it would be appreciated if during the presentation of the graduates, you would hold your collective applause to the end of each degree category. Thank you. Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Doctor of Philosophy. Mackenzie Salt. Jeremy Haynes. Shane Nielsen. Michael Rowan. Antonio dos Santos. Richard James Niels. Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Communications Management. Charlotte Jane Beauchamp. Marlene Bergsma. Kate Bondit. Megan Dawn Brown. Charlene Edon Carrington. Charlotte L. Evans. Cheryl Evans, sorry. Shannon Laura Ann Gallagher. Irina Lagareva. Jessica Martin. Lori Ann Horrigan. Paula Marone. Catherine Nelson. Emily Helen Anderson Bourne. Dylan Jude Pereira. Irina Alexandra Chamet. Mary Sheridan. Martin Waxman. Kimberly Ann Yielding. Yan Zhao.
Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Arts Honors. Christian Abash. Esther Ajikum. Jacqueline Aguiar. Alexander Alatsas. Akila Aisha Alexander. Nathan Allen. Philippe Emmanuel Alves. Rachel Leanne Anderson. And Obang Ante. Christina Anton. Shay Emily Argue. Jacqueline Maria Arico. Tracy Louise Armstrong. Luke Babbage. James William Bader. Zainab Balaj. Brittany Laurel Banderob. Akiva Shea Bartley. Jaskarin Basuta. Roberta Marilyn Beer. Emily Rose Bell. Janet Christine Bell. Angelica Lauren Balavia. Jennifer Ayamorwar Benjamin. Amanda Berardi. Anjali Bardwa. Sarah Binney. Sarah Jane Judith Black. Julian Blasioli. Caitlin Blow. David Boda. Julian Bondi. Andrew David Bonk. Jessica Rose Elizabeth Boyd. Erica Marie Botso. Melissa Botso. Carson Braun. Daniel Joseph Brazil. Liana Brennan. Stephanie Lauren May Brooks. Arthur Bullock. Stephanie Cabrera. Megan Campbell. Michelle Castillo Campos. Jessica Simone Carmichael. Tara Stephanie Chapman. Victoria Paige Sharon. Brian Langren Chu. Megan Marie Margaret Ciccone. Melissa Cifuentes. Victoria Dominica Coppolino. Celine Cordero. Alexandria May Coughlin. Livia Gabrielle Sykes. William Chorney. Lauren Margaret Dandria. Matthew Anthony Da Silva. Brandon Danby. Sydney Alexandra Davis. Emily Noel Daines. Christina Angelica DeClara. Veronica de Medeiros. Alexandra Decata. Tian Den Houdeker. Harleen Dami. Diana Nicole DePede. Luca Anthony Di Pietro. Emily Kathleen Dixon. Rebecca Grace Diemert. Brittany Detrani. John Thomas Duramakos. Simranjit Kaur Dusange. Fatima Ijaz. Majabin Elahi. Carolyn Christine Elliott. Emily Ellis. Laura Facciolo. Andressa Risi Montero Falcao. Olivia Fava. Alessandro Nicole Feldstein. A.J. Flores. Virginia Catherine Ford Roy. Alexander Forsythe. Elizabeth Victoria Fournier. Lauren Foy. Levar Kurt Washington Francis. Yanati Gandhi. Zainab Garda. Ian Garden. Rebecca Garnett. Monique Guerin. Claudia Marie Genicaro. Christina Laura Genicaro. Simran Gill. Alexandria Grace Galuli. Maddie Glover. Catherine Gose. Olivia Annie Graham. Noah Herschel Greenspoon. Hillary Rose Gregory. Rebecca Elizabeth Gregory. Kira Grewal. Bryn Mar Griffin. Olivia Connie Grimaldi. Carolina Gumapak. Annalie Gugasel. Mazen Hamdania. Oprah Hamilton. Beatrice Winifred Olivia Hammond. Jennifer Lee Harrison. Noel Kerwin Henry. Diana Michelle Herrera Gonzalez. Kieran Lee Higgins. Manita Hin. Kevin Michael Huminik. Sean Quinn Hunt. Allison Kaylee Heroes. Roland Hinch. Anyi Ip. Santhi May Isidro. Muataz Ismail. Michaela Jakes. Abi Jasomi. Alana Jolly. Joshny Joseph. Rui Kelly. Megan Carabin. Kayla Katchas. Alicia Kearney. Suji Kim. Maria Reina Colosaidi. Crystal Laura Kong. Zoe Cortez. Emily Kovac. Kira Elizabeth Cozzoli. Madeline Cresto. Nadia Krivobok. Patrick Fiatkovsky. Dana Larrig. Doris Lamb. Isabella Lamantia. Julia Lawrence. Jacqueline Levy. Kalkadan Lajes. Gabriel Marcello Leon Reyes. Tatiana Sophia Forte Latang. Jonah Lewandowski. Ingrid Lee Ruiz. Yaxi Liu. Alexander Michael Neil Lohendorf. Sophie Loosely Millman. Avery Kathleen Lowes. Gwyneth Liu. Yvonne Duck Liu. Michael Lusney. Neil Matthias Mata. Lauren May. Mandy Eman Mai. Amandra Alessandra Maida. Hamza Malik. Sanea Malik. Lucietta Lynn Marchesi. Julia Mariana Marmara. Ismael Marquez Jimenez. Alana May. Sophina Jasmine Rosina Sarah McEwen. Paige Julia McKinney. Gloria Marta McMahony Atanda. Emily Mayer Rivers. Kaylee Noel Melton. Rosemary Vicenza Mendola. Gabriella Esther Miracle Middlebrook. Mariah Esther Grace Middlebrook. Luke Matadi. Vindra Vanessa Munalal. Jessica Raquel Moore. Vanessa Moscow. Manvita Madaluru. Haley Deanna Mullen. Erin Danielle Nantes. Janet Newbegin. Kamsio Chukwu Azabuik Nwok. Adeline Ebosatela Okoyo. Claudia Ifomo Onido. Magdalena Osiecka. Amy Pava. Marissa Christina Palermo. Gina Park. Ashley Tina Patrick. Jacob Pavich. Brianna Summer Pile. Vanessa Pinson. Asani Piragasanathar. Julia Pitts. Katerina Chiara Petrelli. Ryan Premnerine. Rukea Koitawala. Myrna Ralkeb. Leah Randall. Paul Eric Ranu. Maya Rathor. Alexandra Diaz Rebello. Catherine Eliza Reeds. Chanel Melody Lee Richardson. Nina Carla Maria Rieger. Unzila Rifat. Kadisha Lorena Robinson. Thea Marie Crawford Robinson. Olivia Lucia Laracasalva. Sylvia Rodriguez. Zachary Thomas Blake Rudge. Gregory Adam Rutherford. Jennifer Santana Abascal. Tamaya Sarai. Marian Sora. Varesh Silochan. Kruti Sheth. Christina Marie Shibish. Alexis Stephanie Zoe Silverstein. David Silvestro. Samira Singh. Fatima Binti Tariq Sahindi. Jason Su. Adriana Nicole Skaljan. Marta Skrok. Stephen Shobat. Alexandra Spaniolo. Gaushika Kriskantha Raja. Anna Christina Stasiuk. Mairead Celia Stewart. Natalie Nina Stravins. Amy Louise Stride. Camila Stupeka. Rebecca Elizabeth Kimaway Tanaway. Sabrina Madeline Tarcia. Alana Rachel Taylor. Kayla Nicole da Silva Tenente. Jillian Claire Terrio. Madeline Elise Thackeray. Emma Gail Thomas. Emma Rose Thornton. Juliana Lee Trickey. Tristan Camacho. Harvey Tsui. Dana Maria Tucci. Alex Tulligan. Elise Gabrielle Vanderen Krog. Sophia Rose Varga. Patricia Borowski. Jordan Vaters. Anna Catherine DePano Verdillo. Juliana Violi. Natalia Wallo. Ashley Megan Walsh. Yuqiao Wang. Nicholas Mark Donald Waterman. McKenna White. Catherine Lee Wilson. Julia Rose Yamin. Amanda Young. Melek Fatma Yamash. Jessica Roseanne Yorga. Asil Yunis. Sophia Catherine Zanetti. Savannah Zita. Tyler Zerbrig.
Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Fine Arts. Nora Anderson. Jada Lee Conti. Sabrina Correa. Lucreci Dishani Fernando. Sophia Aquila Figaro. Megan Giudici. Angelia Jancic. Emily Jane Kester. Una Caroline Lee. Singhae Anthony Locke. Joshua Alexander Ravenhill. Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Music, Honors. Melissa DaCosta. Jasmine Dyer. Jean Alejandra Fernandez Perez. Olivia Godino Karasik. Keiko Gutierrez. Yongju Kim. Claire Nicole Larson. Jin Young Lee. Alexander Lupka. Bryce Kenneth Moore. Pamela Pender. Brock Pollard. Stefan Vucicevic.
Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Arts and Science Honors. Sarah Badawi. Kaylin Margaret Brooke. Amy Chen. Julia Marie Cook. Zoe Rose Davidson. Cassie Devaney. Michael Clarence Donolo. Benjamin Jordan Feldman. Liam Gordon. Kristen Marie Gracie. Rachel Abigail Gitman. Marco Giovanni Walsh Handa. Zoe Sabrina Walsh Handa. Dina Patricia Emma Matos Hansen. Juliana Harris. Peter Fisher Kerrigan. Manisha Kindry. Wafa Koja. Sophia Anna Sayat Koy. Sarah Jean Krimilowski. Adelaide Leo. Valerie Lutke. Kirthi Priyadarshini Manimaran. Joshua Julian Mirando. Paige Nora Mawson. Avery McNair. Erin Jane Mirdell. Lydia Sarah Lawrence Mills. Sarah Mohiuddin. Nandini Nair. Sadie Frances McVeigh Neufeld. Laura Olivia Newcomb. Allison Margaret O'Halloran. Melissa Palyalunga. Anasi Pang. Lauren Elizabeth Peters. Nicole Marie Peters. Avery Lynn Bartholomew Karashi. Adrian Jean Ralph. Natalie Sapieha. Anjali Sargent. Theodore Simantarakis. Hannah Sarah Skelding. Eliza Sunderji. Alexandra Antonietta Tuchilo. Haley Wright. Jasmine Zhang.
Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Arts. Julia Talar Abkarian. Anthony Agamata. Andrew Michael John Allen. Rizelle Joanna Rubino Antonio. Alicia Kaylin Arntz. Mirjana Balta. Emily Boyetsko. Kendall Olivia Brownstein. William Andrew James Cairns. Donald Chung. James Todd Cochran. Sheila Cook. Tyler Nicholas DeCosta. Julie Suzanne Daly. John Sesley Salazar de Guzman. Laurie Ann de Guzman. Janice Dendecker. Donovan Joseph Iruzzi. Lester Francis. Amy Samantha Gallo. Sarah Gale. Chelsea June Hahn. Kevin Huang. Julie Ann Ivansky. Isabella Natalie Kashishian. Samantha Marie Loiseau. Connor McDonald. Antonella McHale. Megan Melliton. Camilla Nicole Mikolayevska. Victoria Panko. Justin Parker. Sabrina Randazzo. Matthew David Resigan. Sarah Elizabeth Roberts. Kayla Brianne Ruggi. Zachary Hamilton Smith. Kyle Tabbitt. Prachika Tiwari. Lydia Stefani Thanabalasingam. Melanie Tippett. Matthew Wesley Trinier. Brian Ki Yung Tsang. Chelsea Marie Villafana. Yu Wei. Rosaline Youssef.
Let's give one more round of applause for all of our graduates. I would now like to introduce Mr. Joshua Morendo, a graduate of the degree Bachelor of Arts and Science Honors, who will be delivering the valedictory address.
Good afternoon, Madam Chancellor, President Dean, Provost Farrar, honored guests, faculty members, fellow classmates, friends, and family. It's my honor to be giving your valedictory address at the Arts and Science and Humanities Convocation for the class of 2019. Looking back at our time here, this moment always seemed like such a distant goal, something that we would always strive for, but was still so far away. The thing is, now we're here. Our degree is no longer an expectation, it's a reality. It's something that we've all achieved, and it's something of which we should all be so proud. I still remember my very first reading I ever did in university. It was Plato's Republic, and let me tell you that that one's a long one. I never thought I would finish that text, let alone a full degree, but nevertheless, we did it. A quote from the Republic that's always stood out to me is, "The object of education is to teach us to love what is beautiful." If you asked me 4 years ago where I would end up, it would be a whole lot different from where I'm headed now. McMaster taught me to look deeper into what I want to do and who I want to be. It taught me to challenge everything. It taught me to love what is beautiful to me and to continue to search for that beauty and passion in everything I do. Plato likens people to prisoners chained in a cave, unable to turn their heads. All they could see is the cave and the shadows cast on the cave walls. We mistake appearance for reality. We think that what we know now is all there is to see. What education does is release us from the confines of the shadows. It allows us to see the good and understand the beautiful. This education manifests itself in different ways. For me, it was learning from those with different experiences. It was challenging the norms that we were always taught to believe in, and it was extending the classroom far past that 50-minute block and throughout our entire experience. In humanities and arts and science, we learn about the human condition, what it is to live in the world. We learn from the ideas of others and critique those ideas, and through this process, we don't just learn to think in new ways, we learn how to live in new ways. We've had conversations both inside and outside of the classroom about different thinkers and ideas. We've talked about which ideas we agreed with, which ones we didn't quite understand, and the ones we didn't like a whole lot. What's been really cool, though, is how through these conversations, the ideas eventually became our own. It's by making our way through all of this that we discover our potential, and it's how we discover who we're meant to be. Class of 2019, I want us all to look back on what we thought coming into first year, however many years ago that might be. We joined the first days of Welcome Week to people saying what amazing gift we were given. We were going to have the opportunity to spend the next few years here however we choose. We were told that the people we'd meet would soon become our closest friends, and we didn't believe them. But looking back, they were right. Yes, it was nerve-wracking, but those challenges brought out parts of ourselves we didn't even know were there. Asking for notes when you slept through that 8:30 lecture was how we met some of our best friends, and going to office hours, despite how scary that might be, was how we met some of our best mentors. And falling in love with our campus when we thought we never would is how McMaster came our home. Yes, throughout the degree we've learned a lot, but perhaps the most important lesson we've learned was that idea of what makes a home. I look out into the audience and I see people who have shared laughs, tears, who we've shared this experience that will carry with us forever. I see the people who I shared my first Central Brunch with, or the people who I spent my first all-nighter studying in Tho for an exam. Those firsts are what taught us how to make a home for ourselves and for others. And this year, we began to see those firsts turn into last. That last undergrad party, where we saw how a group of scared first-years somehow became a family. We saw in that last class how we might not ever be surrounded by such intelligent people in the same way again. But it's those experiences that taught me that home isn't some static place or time or experience. Home is the people that you make it with, and that doesn't have to end here. Those of you who know me know that I love musicals, so who's really surprised that I'm going to be quoting Hamilton in this speech? After Alexander is shot, he utters the lines, "Legacy. What is a legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden that you'll never get to see." This legacy is what you all have created during your time here. You may not realize it, but each and every one of you has shaped someone's experience here. Whether it was repping during Welcome Week or something as small as lending a pencil to someone during an exam, you have had an impact on someone's story, and that impact is more than you know. I hope that all of you leave here today acknowledging not only the impact that McMaster's had on you, but also the impact that you've had on McMaster, because that is what truly is special. So, when you ask yourselves, how did we get here? Look at the people around and beside you, because we got here together. Congratulations, class of 2019, we did it.
Thank you, Joshua. I now call upon President Dean, who will present the President's Award of Excellence in Student Leadership.
Would Manvita Mudalaru please come forward? Graduating with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Communication Studies and a minor in biology, Manvita Mudalaru has built a diverse legacy of student engagement during her time as a McMaster undergraduate. She was the assistant stage manager for the McMaster Thespian Society and traveled to New Orleans to volunteer with Habitat for Humanity as part of the MacServe Reading Week service learning program. Manvita also helped the Mac Wheelers program deliver exercise routines for clients with spinal cord injuries and neurodegenerative disorders. And she volunteered with the Canadian Association for Girls in Science Hamilton chapter, making presentations to girls ages 7 to 16 about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Manvita has been a long-term and valued contributor to McMaster's Student Success Center since she first began volunteering there in 2014. As a communications assistant, she wrote the Stories from the Arch blog to help her fellow students with everything from adapting to change to dealing with failure. She also developed the Planned Happenstance project to share first-person student stories. As a student success leader, Manvita was part of the leadership unit that planned and delivered programs, including the Student Leadership Conference, and she was also an airport welcome team lead who helped coordinate the program designed to greet arriving international students. Congratulations, Manvita. Very well done. Fabulous job. There you go. I'm going to take a photo of you.
Congratulations, Manvita. I now call upon Dean Cruikshank, who will present the Dean's Medal for Excellence in the Humanities.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the winners of the Dean's Medal for Excellence in the Humanities for Outstanding Academic Achievement. It is with great pleasure that I announce that this year's recipients are Noah Greenspoon and Emily Kovac.
Congratulations, Noah and Emily. I'd now like to introduce the Director of the Arts and Science Program, Dr. Jean Wilson, who will present the Laura Dodson Prize.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to present the Laura Dodson Prize for Outstanding Achievement in both Arts and Science. I am pleased to announce that Benjamin Feldman is the winner of this award.
Congratulations, Benjamin. May I now introduce Karen McLeod, a graduate from the Humanities class of 1990 and a representative of the McMaster Alumni Association. Karen will now deliver the Alumni Association address.
Chancellor Labarge, President Dean, McMaster faculty, fellow alumni, honored guests, and especially members of the McMaster class of 2019, including my niece, Erin. I know you've been hoping someone would tell you about life in 1894, so your wish is about to come true. Because it was then, 125 years ago, when the members of McMaster's first graduating class got together and formed what would become the McMaster Alumni Association. At that time, our university's entire alumni population was about the size of 2 water polo teams. But they needed an organization to keep them connected because only about 1% of the country had a telephone and far fewer had Facebook. Now, 125 years later, there are so many ways to connect that you'd think the McMaster Alumni Association's job would be easy. And it would, except the association has grown a bit. From 16 members in 1894 to more than 200,000 with the season's convocations. In that growth, we built our alumni program knowing that there are probably as many ways to engage with the Alumni Association as there are alumni. Some of you will stay connected from day one. Others, hopefully a small number, will drift away and never reconnect. But the vast majority of you will have peaks and valleys in your lifelong relationship with MAC. It's the way it usually works. And if you want proof, just look at our chancellor. Chancellor Labarge and McMaster didn't see much of each other for decades after her graduation. Then she was invited back into the fold as a volunteer. She learned more about her alma mater. She made exciting investments as a philanthropist. She has become one of our greatest advocates. And now she's concluding her second term as chancellor, a role we like to call McMaster's chief volunteer. On behalf of her more than 200,000 fellow alumni, I want to thank her for everything she has done as chancellor, but I also want to thank her for setting such a terrific example. It's an example that each of you can follow as you begin whatever comes next. You may find that your path crosses with McMaster frequently, infrequently, or almost not at all, and that's all fine with us. We'll be here when you find the right time and opportunity, just like our chancellor did. I hope your relationship with McMaster continues in the form that makes the most sense to you. I hope the university is part of your progress, your story, your life for a very long time. And especially if you happen to be my sister's daughter and you happen to be the niece of the alumni director at McMaster. Congratulations to the class of 2019 and welcome to the McMaster alumni family.
Thank you, Karen. I now invite Dr. Dean back to the podium to deliver his President's Address.
Madam Chancellor, Dr. Beckett, distinguished colleagues, graduates, ladies and gentlemen. Like many of the rituals by which we order our lives, convocation is a combination of the private and the public. Today we're celebrating your individual achievements as well as our collective renewal through those achievements and through the futures that you will all make. Convocation is also a form of therapy in that it is intended to give acknowledgement, focus, and expression to our awareness of change, of the life transitions which all of you are experiencing right now, and of the broader shifts in our society and culture which implicate us all. One phase of life is ending for you, and another is beginning. Perhaps still within McMaster if you're planning further study, or, as is likely the case for most of you, beyond our university. While I said convocation helps to give focus to our awareness of change, that is not to say that it necessarily simplifies moments like this. After all, while the end of one phase can be a relief, it can also occasion a sense of loss or even grief. And while we may approach the beginning of the next phase with excitement, there will also likely come with an admixture of nervousness and sometimes fear. The combination of emotions on a day like this will be different for all of us. Now, I'm an English professor going through changes of my own. As you may know, I leave McMaster University at the end of this convocation season. So perhaps this audience of all will indulge me in a brief poetic moment. I want to read you some lines from T.S. Eliot's poem, Little Gidding, the last of his 4 quartets published in 1942. It is a riff, although Eliot would certainly not have called it that, on the saying which Mary Queen of Scots embroidered on her cloth of estate. The cloth of estate is that ornate embroidered cloth that hangs behind the throne. And she embroidered this motto on it while imprisoned in England prior to her execution. En ma fin, gît mon commencement. In my end is my beginning. Nearly 400 years later, also in London, England, and with the massive destruction of successive German bombing raids all around him, T.S. Eliot amplified Queen Mary's motto in this way: what we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. These, I think, are helpful words on an occasion like this. While it is tempting at times of change to mourn the loss of something past or coming to an end, it is important to keep your focus on the future, however unknown or unknowable that may be. For Mary, Queen of Scots, imprisoned under threat of execution, the future was imagined as a Christian afterlife. For T.S. Eliot, thinking about Nicholas Ferrar's 17th century religious community in the context of wartime Britain, it was that and more, a societal and cultural resurgence animated by belief and unified by transcendent values. To make an end is to make a beginning. That is our theme for today, and we should all embrace it, however differently we see ourselves starting out, and however contrasting are our hopes and ambitions for the future. Acceptance of change, along with the constant process of renewal that it implies, is fundamental to success, whether for individuals like you and me, or for institutions like McMaster, in which we jointly have found our place. Change drives us forward to challenge ourselves, to scale even greater heights. Now, it's not as if we have much choice in the matter. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus is reputed to have observed that change is the only constant in life. But we do have a choice about how we respond to that change, whether we will treat ends as beginnings or merely as ends. And no less a thinker than Confucius has pointed out the link between the acceptance of change and personal growth. He is reputed to have said that they must often change who would be constant in happiness or wisdom. So that last point is an important one for all of us as a university family. Despite the fact that universities have been around for over 900 years and are seen as one of the most stable human institutions in the West, they have not been immune to change. Indeed, all the teaching, learning, research, and discovery that happens in a place like McMaster is premised on the relentless pursuit of truth. To be successful, the university must always be changing, developing, and creating new beginnings of one kind or another. In the 9 years I've been at McMaster, I've been witness to constant and far-reaching change. Most obvious example has been alterations to the physical fabric of the place, the demolition of Wentworth House and the construction of L.R. Wilson Hall, the expansion of studio art and engineering experiential education facilities, groundbreaking for the Peter George Center for Living and Learning, opening of the David Braley Health Sciences Center downtown, and the construction of the outdoor Indigenous Meeting Circle, to name only a few. Now, mentioning experiential learning and the Gerald Hatch Center points to this major shift in pedagogy that has occurred during the last decade, moving emphasis towards experiential, technology-enabled, self-directed, and community-engaged ways of learning. And the university has transitioned overall into a more vital engagement with its local and global communities in recognition of our mission to advance human and societal health and well-being. So substantive has been that shift that our university was recently ranked second in the world for our contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Listing off these changes gives me pause to reflect on the speed with which time passes. I wonder whether you feel, as I do, as if it was only yesterday that you arrived at McMaster. But think about this. What we're celebrating today is, for most of you, the successful completion of a project to which you have devoted approximately 20% of your lives so far. The 9 years I have spent here account for the same percentage of my adult life. It has been time very well spent, I hope you will agree. But it has been spent, nevertheless. And the task today is to ponder the time ahead of you and to consider the thoughtful and joyful ways in which you might use it, making use, I hope, of all the skills and experience that you've worked so hard to acquire during your time at McMaster. Now, it is interesting that we talk about our relation to time using the same language we use for commerce. We spend it. Sometimes we invest it. And sometimes the investment pays off. Now, there's a witty rejoinder to this habit of speech in one of the very first self-help guides ever written. It's a book called How to Live on 24 Hours a Day by the English author Arnold Bennett, published in 1910, which includes a variety of advice for living life to the full. And Bennett notes that time is indeed a commodity, but a commodity of a very special sort. And here's a quote. "The supply of time," he says, "is truly a daily miracle. You wake up in the morning and lo, your purse is magically filled with 24 hours of the unmanufactured tissue of the universe of your life. And it is unstealable, and no one receives either more or less than you receive every day." Perhaps the best thing about time, he notes further, is that you don't have access to credit. You cannot draw on the future. It is impossible to get into debt, he says. You can only waste the passing moment. You cannot waste tomorrow. It is kept for you. Tomorrow is kept for you. My hope is that you can all make a success of tomorrow and of the new beginning and the new life that you're about to embark on. While the ceremony represents an ending for you and for me, as you also heard, it is also an ending for our esteemed Chancellor, Dr. Suzanne Labarge. Dr. Labarge has served McMaster with great distinction for the last 6 years as our 18th Chancellor and has presided at all of our convocation ceremonies during that time, as well as acting as our most prominent university volunteer. These spring convocations are the last ceremonies that Chancellor Labarge will preside at, and I didn't want to end without recognizing her service and extending our thanks for all that she has done. So, there are many of us saying goodbye. Valediction is always difficult, but as Winnie the Pooh is believed by some to have said, how lucky we are to be leaving something that makes the goodbye hard. My very, very best wishes to you all.
Thank you very much, President Dean, and congratulations to the class of 2019. As one of those 200,000 alumna, I'm really looking forward to seeing where all of you end up. And certainly it's been a complete privilege to be Chancellor McMaster, but it's also been a great joy. And the reason is days like today. I figure that over the last 6 years, I have shaken hands with some 30 to 35,000 students, each of whom is celebrating the fact they have left with a degree. And I think there's something special about the arts degree that is commented on by Dr. Cruikshank, by your valedictorian, and by President Dean, which is, in many ways, you carry with you a slightly different set of skills than the professional schools that will be graduating later this week. You carry with you the critical thinking skills that are broader. They're not attached to one element of study. And when I listen to Dr. Beckett and his comments, you realize just how important that's going to be in tomorrow's world. And not all of us will be able to leave a legacy, as Dr. Beckett has done for his community, but we all have something to offer. And all I can say is I wish you all the very best as you go forward. I also want to thank Dr. Dean, as he commented about my leaving, is during the time I've been here, Dr. Dean, President Dean has really emphasized the student experience and tried to change the environment in which students live and learn here at McMaster. And for that and for moving the needle one more time for McMaster, we're very grateful to him, and I hope to speak on your behalf when I congratulate him and wish him all the very best. Now, in closing, I have a few final announcements. The reception for humanities graduates and their guests will be immediately following the ceremony at the Art Gallery of Hamilton in the Joey and Toby Tannenbaum Pavilion and Zucker Sculpture Garden. The reception for the Arts and Science Program graduates and their guests will be immediately following the ceremony at the David Braley Health Sciences Center, room 2032. Finally, I would ask that you please remain standing at your seats until the academic procession and the graduates have left the hall. Please join now in the singing of our national anthem. After the singing of the anthem, this convocation stands adjourned.